content warning for a very open discussion about my mental health, featuring a very weird, imaginative conversation I keep having with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau.
Oh, it looks like we got a Force-sensitive child here.
He needs training.
Okay, well, who's gonna train him?
It's gotta be a Jedi.
Okay, well, who's a Jedi that's around?
It can only be Luke.
Wait a second. Why do we have to train him?
Because he has anger and hate inside of him.
Well, all kids have hate and anger inside of them, but they don't need to be taught by an institution not to be that way.
Well, who's gonna teach him to lean towards the light?
Parents, friends, family?
Nah, we're gonna go with Luke Skywalker.
What?
Story time. A little over a year ago, I was in a precarious place mentally, trying to grapple with the loss of Ben Solo, the treatment of Rey, Rose, Finn, and Poe, and just in general, the mishandling of the Skywalker saga. It put my brain in a place that was not good. I won't get into how this movie failed in so many ways,
Rey Skywalker,
but I will be going into how The Mandalorian failed me in a very similar way. So last year on a family trip at the beginning of the new year, I had believed, honestly, in this like creepy cabin that we were staying out in the middle of the woods, that we were all going to be murdered. I truly believed it. I was completely paralyzed by fear. I started catastrophizing very mundane things, and I was barely getting any sleep. Through all this, I learned that the brain does very weird things whenever you feel an immense sense of betrayal or loss. I've always had the ability to adapt and like move beyond things fairly quickly, so this was very new to me. I invested so much into the end of the saga, so when everything was handled in this way, I felt like I was barely hanging on. And of course, 2020 brought with it a whole new set of stresses, and I was able to distract myself with plenty of other content that I like. Fast forward to the premiere of season 2 of The Mandalorian in late October. Finally, I had some more mythic meat I could sink my teeth into. I had something new in Star Wars I could be invested in. The first episode began with a bang, and I was digging back into Star Wars lore. I got out all my related books. I reread The Hero with a Thousand Faces. I even bought some more books to help me parse through some of the mythical stuff I was seeing. In fact, the only books I think I read in 2020 were Star Wars related or mythic or like myth related. You know, I love this kind of stuff, and it was really fun while it lasted. For those who don't know, I did a review podcast on The Mandalorian season 2 with What the Force podcast. So if you're interested in my episode by episode reaction / review as it was airing, that's where you can find that. Of course, MC, the host, and I are undisputable best friends, so we genuinely had an awesome experience messaging each other every Friday about all the mythic goodies we found in the latest Mando, and then organizing those thoughts into notes to record for the podcast. The season had a lot of weirdness that I actually loved, and even when it was handled poorly, I still really enjoyed the show. And then the final episode happened. It was even before He Who Must Not Be Named showed up that I felt something a little weird. I got a really bad feeling where it was all heading. You see, there's this huge mythic thing that's going on with The Mandalorian and what it means to be a part of this Mandalorian community. The whole season is packed with different types of Mandalorians, and as Din Djarin meets them, he has to further contend with his own idea and his own creed of like what a Mandalorian means to him. There's also the state of the ship, which was really interesting. It's barely hanging on, it's being held together by like Mon Calamari netting. It's truly Din's only home. When it's blown up, he pulls 2 items from it out of the ashes, the spear and the ball. We already know that the spear is the only thing that can stand against the darksaber, but the significance of the ball is rather interesting too. For one, Din is literally wielding an orb and scepter. Obviously, like these are used in the coronation to represent bringing Christianity to all of the world, but from a mythic perspective, the orb represents bringing the elixir to the whole of the world. And the scepter represents the pastoral care for the people. It represents good governance. A different way of looking at it, heroes typically wielding spears will get pierced through with them, even if it's their own weapon. A spear is very difficult to wield and is often paired with a shield. In these myths, the spear will typically break or shatter or splinter. Sometimes the tips of them are poisoned. Just the presence of a spear is kind of foreboding in a way. If you watched my video on the first season of Mandalorian, you'll see that I contemplate about how Din Djarin is actually Parsifal from Wolfram's Parsifal. And within this story, within this epic, Parzival is pierced through with a spear. In fact, the name Parzival means pierced through the middle. To somebody like Joseph Campbell, for instance, this means that someone has come to terms with their own being. They have to find a way to their true self and then bring that knowledge back outward to the community. So, following these threads of thought lead us to several very interesting plot points for the final episode. 1. Din using the spear and the orb to get Grogu, to save Grogu. 2. Din using the spear and the orb in a symbolic coronation of sorts. 3. Din being literally pierced through the middle by the spear or being badly injured in general. 4. Through failing or being injured, Din coming to terms with who he is as a Mandalorian and or as a father. And these plot points provide further food for thought. What does it mean to be an adoptive father? And what does it mean to be a part of a community versus being a part of a cult? But then they throw a gigantic bomb on the plot, blowing up all of these neat threads that they themselves had established. The ball is all but forgotten about. The spear is predictably used in a boss battle of sorts. Din succeeds at most all of the challenges that are put up against him, but then when he's faced with failure, he's actually saved by a character completely unrelated to the story, so we don't get to experience him processing that failure at that moment. And on top of that, breaking up the clan of two is then presented as a good thing. Din doesn't have time to learn about being a father. He doesn't ever process what it means to be a Mandalorian versus being in a cult. And even if he does get there in the next season, I still have a lot of issues with this ending. Why does Grogu have to train with Luke? Why is this necessary? Why do all of those who are Force sensitive have to train to become Jedi? Why do Jedi have to isolate children from their parents? Why did it have to be Luke? And why does this scene so clearly parallel the Vader hallway scene from Rogue One? If the answer to all of these questions is because it's Star Wars, then I guess I just don't like Star Wars. Friday night, hours after I got to watch the episode, get kind of mad about it online, and then go back to find out that Luke was on screen for a whopping 10 minutes, the hallway scene alone was 5 minutes. At that point, I finally just broke. I cried and cried so hard I gave myself a headache because I realized that Star Wars was never for me. The Last Jedi was an exception. Rian Johnson made a movie that had all the things I love about stories and myth. Romance, failed legacy, failure of institutions, finding your own path, powerful but feminine women, the evils of war, the reminder that anyone can be redeemed and anyone can change the world, but you have to lean on people. The community matters. The Mandalorian sacrificed its own meaning for the sake of nostalgia. They twisted the story to revolve around this final scene, and so everything else gets the life sucked out of it. All of these mythic threads get unraveled, leaving a story that has the same problem as the end of the Skywalker saga. It's mythically dissonant. Now, this doesn't mean I'm not going to try out Leslie Headley's show, The Acolyte, or anything Rian Johnson makes. Me and Star Wars, we have a complicated relationship. If I want to go back, I can piece together the things I do like and have something there waiting for me, but I also don't need that. So for those interested, I do still catastrophize a lot, but now I've named the problem and I can understand it better, and I can understand when I have an intrusive thought. I have so many things that I love and so many things I want to talk about on this channel. I have videos planned on Hana Yori Dango, on Enhypen's concept, BTS's reality shows like American Hustle Life.
Korean culture and hip-hop collaboration.
Yes, that's a thing that happened. And generally things that are healing and make me happy. So if you've liked any of my videos, I hope you will stick around. And let me know in the comments if there's any media you've been getting into as of late that has been healing for you. Because honestly, we all need it.